this is my informative speech for public speaking. Hello and thank you for coming. In my research I learned that in a typical year about 1,400 youths under age 18 are arrested for homicide, 4,600 for forcible rape, and a troubling 64,900 for aggravated assault. Juvenile justice is a big problem in the United States these days. Youths are committing crimes at staggering rates from coast to coast. It's important for us to learn about this topic because crime affects us all, whether we're related to people who are with victims or people that are committing the crimes themselves. It can affect us all detrimentally. I've done a lot of research on this topic as well as get my degree in Bachelor of Science in Criminal Justice from TCNJ. And now we're going to talk a little bit about the history of the juvenile correction system. It's based into 5 periods. The first period is the Puritan period, which is from 1646 to 1824. The second period is the Refuge period from 1824 to 1899. The third period is known as the Juvenile Court period from 1899 until 1960. The fourth period is Juvenile Rights period from 1960 to 1980. And the fifth period is called the Crime Control period from 1980 until current times. When we think about juvenile corrections, we need to understand the difficulty of this task. People that serve in juvenile corrections need to serve 2 masters. At one hand, they need to represent the best interests of the children and do what's best for them, while at the same time protecting society from any harsh crimes that they maybe have created. Let's start with the Puritan period. The Puritan period, as I learned from reading Ketchum, is juvenile court was a legal descendant of the English chancery concept of parens patriae. Now, what this statement says is that the government is allowed to step in and do what's in the best interest of the child. And what that means is that they can send them to jail or send them to house of refuge or institute counseling and other services to help them. The first law made in America that deals with situations is known as the Massachusetts Stubborn Child Law. This law states that in the event of a juvenile delinquent, the parent has the first opportunity to help fix the child, and if that doesn't work, then the police can come in and help persuade the child. Now, the next period is known as the Refuge period. That's from 1824 to 1899, excuse me. Now, in theory, this was a good idea, but in real life, it didn't happen. This slide here is a picture of the island in New York. It's famous as a house of corrections. During this time period, the idea was to send these people to these houses of refuge for maturation, work on their social skills, and educate them. But in reality, it just became other jails for people that weren't considered adults, and they were very bad and mistreated there. The next period is the Juvenile Court period. This is the first time that there was a separate court system for juveniles and adults. This started in Chicago with the help of the Chicago Women's Club and the Chicago Bar Association, where they founded the first juvenile justice system where this court was set up separately for adults and kids. And this model was used by the rest of the country to separate the system that we use today. The next period is Juvenile Rights period. This period is from 1960 into 1980. And just like the rest of our country in the 60s to 80s, we're focused on civil liberties and increasing people's freedoms. So, with the help of the ACLU, juveniles were given more freedoms during this time, where their rights were expanded and they were given a little less lenience, more lenient sentencing, and things such as that. And the Supreme Court of Kent versus the United States helped to establish due process for juveniles. Before that, adults were given due process, but it wasn't specified whether juveniles were entitled to this right or not. The last period is known as the Crime Control period. That's from 1980 until now. During this period, there's a public shift from wanting to give them more rights to where they gave them less rights or more strict and more severe sanctioning. This was kind of goes with adults and juveniles, and basically something that can be attributed to helping this is mass media. Now the ability of technology to spread word to large masses quickly, it's created a type of hysteria where everyone's scared of crime more than they used to be. Also, when we think about the difficulty of this task, we must remember that the people that work in juvenile corrections have the obligation to the child to do what's best for them, and also to society to keep them safe. Despite the difficulty of this task, it has experienced much success. According to CLEAR, two strong indicators of delinquency in males are lack of social skills and poor school performance. And they can have success when they focus on these skills by educating these youths and also working on their social skills to reduce the rate of recidivism. Now, when I talk about recidivism, I mean the amount of them that graduate from these programs and then return back to them. Juveniles have a better rate of recidivism than the adult prisons, meaning that once a juvenile gets through the system, they have more chance not to re-enter the system even as adults. In conclusion, with the proliferation of youth crime, we must be aware of everything that's going on, and since they have success compared to adults, I think that it is a good idea for us to know more about this and to help it. Thank you. Does anyone have any questions?
At what age do you think it's appropriate that you hear on TV where they charge juveniles as adults?
Okay, I think I know what you're
what's that
asking.
all about?
So, depending on the severity of the crime, some people that would be under 18 can still be moved into adult courts, and that has to pass a waiver process where they get jumped by the judges and the attorneys representing them. They can get jumped from the juvenile system to the adult system based on their level of culpability and their mental stability, and also on what crime they committed.
Do all juvenile cases, are they like sealed records?
I believe it's a state-to-state basis, but I think that in New Jersey it is a sealed record.
And is there any studies on whether or not people that have sealed records are more likely to return to the system than those that do not, in fear that they're gonna be exposed? I don't know. Like people.
I think that the rate of...
Like if you get like more than one, then you have like an unsealed record, right?
I'm not sure. I think the record remains sealed as long as the acts were committed while you were a juvenile. And I think that the rate of recidivism is lower in general compared to someone who would enter the system as an adult. All right. Thank you.